Hello and welcome. Good morning to episode 20 of the Driver's Debrief. I'm your host, Nicholas Patty, and we're doing this episode a little bit earlier. For those of y'all joining me live, and for those of y'all that watch the uploaded episodes, these will be up earlier than usual. My little boy has a appointment at the pediatrician, and it forced me to decide if I was going to do it earlier or later than usual. But I've been so excited for this episode since the F1 preview episode that I figured we just had to jump into it. You'll see exactly what it's about with my Pfaff Motorsports hat, my Dale sweatshirt, which, yes, it's NASCAR, but he ran the Rolex 24 in 2001. And we have our IMSA GTP launch mug from when GTP Racing returned. So you can guess it's an IMSA episode. We are previewing all of the 2025 IMSA season, including all the Endurance Cup races, the regular sprint races, if you want to call them that, and more. We have season predictions. These are a lot more in-depth than we got into in Formula One due to the different classes, due to the different championships on offer between drivers, constructors, team champions. We're predicting the best race, the worst race, and we have an IMSA cooldown room to round it off. So if you have not already, please, here on X, follow. This is where you'll get minute-to-minute updates. We curate a lot of this news as it happens during the week. We provide commentary on X during the week on various issues, various driver transfers, manufacturer news, automotive news, and more. So you'll definitely want to follow there. And then if you like the episodes, if you enjoy watching these podcasts, make sure to jump onto YouTube and Rumble to follow and subscribe on either one of the platforms, to like the video and comment. We do have a few discussion sections of the episode where I'll want to get your feedback after the fact, and then we'll recap that in upcoming episodes. So with that said, let's not waste any more time. Apologies for the allergies that I've been fighting with. Let's go ahead and jump into the IMSA drivers cooldown room. All right, let's start. Ringer van de Zande, as you'll know from his 7 years of Cadillac racing, starts 2025 with Meyer-Shank Racing and Acura. You will also note that Meyer-Shank is now returning also to IMSA after a few years away. Actually, a few years. I think it was just 1 year away, focusing on their IndyCar efforts. Formula E driver Pascal Wehrlein will make his IMSA debut in the JDC Miller Motorsports entry in the Rolex 24. The JDC Miller Motorsports car is a Porsche 963. Pascal Wehrlein, factory Porsche driver. You would expect that to have happened. Jagger Jones, the grandson of the late Parnelli Jones, is actively seeking a 2025 LMP2 drive in IMSA. Riley Motorsports is taking over, and I couldn't remember if I did this like 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, so I wanted to include it in case I didn't. Riley Motorsports is taking over the SC63 Lamborghini program for the Michelin Endurance Cup rounds. So Riley Motorsports, obviously tried and true, proven in the IMSA paddock. They're taking over the program from Lamborghini for those Michelin Endurance Cup rounds. Austin Cindric has replaced Ben Barker in the number 64 Ford Multimatic Mustang GTD car. Ben Barker and Ben Barnicoat, who have been co-drivers for 3 seasons now, will be split, as Ben Barnicoat will remain in GTD Pro with Vassar Sullivan Racing and Lexus. I should have mentioned that. Ben Barnicoat will remain in GTD Pro. He will be joined by Aaron Telitz, while Barker is joined in GTD by Parker Thompson. More exciting GT3 news in IMSA. Sheena Monk and Stephen McAleer will join Triarci Racing, the Ferrari team, in the 296 GTB in the GTD class for 2025. Mike Skeen will join them for the endurance events, and James Collado will join them for the Rolex 24. Sheena Monk, obviously, bringing that JG Wentworth sponsorship with her. They were competing in the Acura NSX. Stephen McAleer is joining her. And then Mike Skeen and James Collado, obviously Collado being a Le Mans winner the last few years, and Mike Skeen being Mike Skeen and always being fast no matter what you put him in and no matter how much of a heads up. So let's go ahead and jump into the IMSA WeatherTech 2025 schedule. So coming up in a few days, we have the Roar Before the 24, January 17th through 19th. That's obviously a GT4 LMP3 kind of predecessor race to the Rolex 24 to kind of get you hyped up, get you into it. Excuse me. So the season officially kicks off then. It's just for a different championship. Then we have arguably no, it's not arguable. My favorite race in the world, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, January 22nd through 26th. Then we have the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, March 12th through 15th. Remember, WEC no longer runs the Sebring 1,000 kilometers that same weekend. They separated last year because otherwise you would get both. The 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix at Long Beach is April 11th and 12th. That's always a fun race. So that one is 100 minutes, hour and 40. So that's basically their sprint. Then you have the Detroit Grand Prix at that new Detroit circuit, not Belle Isle, not any of the others. It's the Detroit Street Circuit, 100-minute race. That's May 30th through 31st. That's definitely going to be... It was arguably the worst race of last year, but it was hectic. So, you know, I'm sure it'll provide some entertainment in that regard. Then we have arguably my favorite track in the world, the Salem 6 Hours at Watkins Glen, June 19th through June 22nd. It's a 6-hour race, obviously, at Watkins Glen. We have the Chevrolet Grand Prix at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Mosport for those of us laymen. That's a 2-hour and 40-minute race. Then you have IMSA Sports Car Weekend at Road America. That's another 2-hour and 40-minute race. I totally forgot. Mosport, July 11th through 13th. IMSA Sports Car Weekend, August 1st through 3rd. Then we have the Michelin GT Challenge at VIR. That's August 22nd through 24th. That's a 2-hour and 40-minute race. Then we have the TireRack.com Battle on the Bricks, September 19th through 21st at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's a 6-hour race. And then Motul Petit Le Mans at Road Atlanta to round out the season, October 8th through 11th. So a lot of good races. And actually, the funny thing is during the season, I always think to myself, man, like the IMSA season's so short. You know, you wait a month for a race and then the race is gone, and then you wait another month, and it seems like a few times you do that, all of a sudden the season's over. But going through that, there's actually more, at least listing them out individually, there's more races than I thought there was, or remember there being. So with the calendar ironed out, let's go ahead and look at who is racing at those various races. So, just as a reminder, the 4 classes, Grand Touring Prototype, GTP. Those are the Cadillac homologated WEC cars, essentially. Le Mans Prototype, spec class between Orca and Duquesne chassis, Nissan engines, whatever. Grand Touring Daytona and GT Pro and GTD. The only difference being the drivers, they're all GT3 cars. So let's go through, starting at the bottom, working up the confirmed teams that are racing in the 2025 season. In the number 12, we have Vassar Sullivan in the Lexus for GT. This is GTD. Sorry, GTD. The number 12 of Vassar Sullivan, the number 13 of AWA, the 19 car of Van de Steur Racing, the 21 car of AF Corsa, the 27 of Heart of Racing, the 32 of Korthoff Competition Motors, the 34 of Conquest Racing, the 36 of DXDT Racing, the 45 of Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti, the number 47 of AF Corsa, the number 57 of Windward Racing, the number 66 of Gradient Racing, the number 70 of Inception Racing, the number 78 of Forte Racing, the number 80 of Lone Star Racing, the number 81 of Dragon Speed, the number 83 Iron Dames car, the number 96 Turner Motorsports car, and then you have the 21 and 23 of Triarsi Competizioni, and then the number 120 of Wright Motorsports. Really dense, populated GTD field, and that's how we'd like to see it. In GTD Pro, we have the number 1 Paul Miller Racing car, the number 3 and 4 Corvettes run by Pratt & Miller Motorsports, the number 9 Pfaff Motorsports car, number 14 Vassar Sullivan car, the number 48 of Paul Miller Racing, the number 64 of Ford Multimatic Motorsports, and the 65, the number 77 AO Racing Rexy reigning champion, and the number 163 Automobili Lamborghini car. Moving into LMP2, the number 2 United Autosports car, the number 8 Tower Motorsports, the number 4 Algarve Pro Racing, number 11 TDS Racing, number 18 is Era Motorsports, number 22 is United Autosports, number 43 is Inter Europol Competition, number 52 is PR1 Matthias and Motorsports, number 73 making their debut in LMP2 is Pratt & Miller Motorsports, and no, it's not in a Corvette. Number 74 of Riley Racing, 88 of AF Corsa, and the 99 of AO Racing. That would be Spike, the other dragon and dinosaur of the themed cars. Moving into GTP, the creme de la creme of the IMSA field. And there's a lot of cars and a lot of big teams. When I go through here, you're going to hear some reuniting of teams and manufacturers that we loved for the Grand Am and IMSA fans, and you're going to hear some new teams, some new names. So this is going to be exciting. So number 5, Proton Competition. Number 6 and 7, Porsche Penske Motorsport. Number 10, the Cadillac Wayne Taylor racing car. That's going to be scary. The number 23 Heart of Racing team, Aston Martin. Number 24 and 25, BMW team, RLL. Number 31, Cadillac Whelen. Number 40, Cadillac Wayne Taylor as well. So they're returning with their 2 cars, both Cadillacs, rather than going down to 1 Cadillac after the switch from Acura. The number 60 Meyer-Shank car. Number 63, Lamborghini. Number 85, JDC Miller Motorsports. And then the number 93 Meyer-Shank racing cars. So obviously there's additional cars that are going to be running at Daytona, but that is the field that is signed up for the whole season in IMSA competition. So as you can tell, a really healthy field for North American sports car racing. But that basically catches us up, guys. That gets us back to ground one, kind of understanding where we're at when it comes to the upcoming IMSA season. Now we get to jump into the juicy stuff. We get to jump into predictions. So buckle your seatbelt. That was arguably the cringiest thing I could have said at that moment in time. I think we're going to start with the best race and worst race predictions, and then we'll go into the class champions in ascending order. So the worst race, I think, is going to be Detroit. I already said that, but I think Detroit's going to be the worst race because of all the tracks. Street circuits are the worst. Between that and Long Beach is actually typically always gives us good racing, whether it's IndyCar, IMSA, what have you. Detroit's going to be the worst, and that's just as a matter of process of elimination, not even talking about how last year's race went. So worst race is going to be Detroit. Best race, it's always the Rolex 24. I mean, the Glen, you'll have fantastic. Don't get me wrong. Okay, let me back up. IMSA has, across a season, the best races of any racing series in the world. Let me make that clear. It's not even close. And I watch most of them. It's not even close. And that's not because I'm biased. It is just amazing racing. But what always seems there's 2 races that always seems to have some outsized drama due to the fact that they bookend the season. Petit Le Mans and the Rolex 24. The Rolex 24 to me is the best race in the world. Yes, you heard me. Over the Indy 500, over Monaco Grand Prix, over Daytona 500, over Le Mans. I think the Daytona 24 is the best of them all. So I think that's going to be the best race of the upcoming Daytona season. Yeah, woohoo. Or of the upcoming IMSA season. Okay, so let me real quickly walk through how the IMSA championships work so that y'all aren't confused as I go through here. So there's class champions. So in each class, there will be a car that wins the championship for that class. There's also manufacturer champions. So that's obviously, again, this seems painfully obvious, but Porsche, Ferrari, whatever. But that goes out, this is where it's different from F1. That goes outside of teams, right? So you'll have privateer teams and factory teams running a Porsche or a Ferrari. And those combined points count towards the Constructors' Championship or manufacturer's championship in each class. Okay? LMP2 being disregarded because it's a spec class. So in GTP, GTD Pro, and GTD, you will have a manufacturer champion that isn't a team, and it's not a driver lineup, but it is the car that ran in that class, regardless of team. And then on the flip side, you have the team champions. So the team champions are not necessarily who won the class, but if that team across the season, let's say that team had, this is a stupid example, let's say that team had 9 cars that finished in the top 10 every single race, but they never won, and you rearranged the order every single race of which one finishes where, you would have a car that wins the class overall, and then you'd have a team that wins the championship as well, right? Because they have the most collective points total, but not by any one car. So there's team champions, manufacturer champions, and class champions. So we have prediction categories for all 3. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the predictions. Predictions for the team champions in GTD. I have Vassar Sullivan Racing winning the GTD team champion title. In GTD Pro, they had a rough year last year, getting the teething troubles out of their car. I think they figured it out. I think Pratt & Miller Racing is going to win the GTD Pro Team Championship. LMP2, I think United Autosports is going to win the Team Championship. And in GTP, oh boy, in GTP, I think because of how strong their 2-car effort is, I think Penske Porsche will be the team champions. I think Penske will bring it home for the 2nd year in a row. All right. Everybody okay so far? Anybody throwing things out the windows? No? Cool. I think we can continue then. Now let's go to the manufacturer's champions. So this is going to look very similar. Because, again, if the team wins their championship, they did it with the cars, which typically... The only way in which this would change is if, like, let's say Porsche had 5 different teams running their cars. They might be an odds-on favorite, although the team championship they might not claim. In GTD, I have Lexus being the manufacturer's champion. Because I think if Vassar, there's not other... In the GT teams, there's not... I don't think there's enough cars outside of kind of the factory 2-car entry by a lot of these big teams. No, actually, Lexus it's 1 car in each class. That's right. They split the 2. Listen, I don't have to rationalize it, okay? I'm just going Lexus. I think Vassar Sullivan has normally been dominant. They had an off year last year. The Lexus is an older platform, but that also means they don't have any troubles with it, problems with it. They know exactly how it works. They know exactly how to go fast with that car. I think they're going to be the manufacturer champions. I think the Chevy Corvette is going to get the manufacturer championship in GTD Pro. Your alternatives are a singular Porsche from FAF. Or no, not even FAF. Who's running a Porsche in Pro? Hold up. Let me go back to this entry list. Is anybody running a Porsche in GTD Pro? Oh, AO Racing. Okay. Duh. Reigning champions. No big deal. I don't think it's going to be enough. You have a singular car, right? You have a singular car that has to fight for the championship versus 2 Corvettes, and we're talking about manufacturer, right? So Corvette finishing 2nd and 3rd every single race is going to be the Porsche finishing 1st in terms of manufacturer's points. So I'm going Chevy Corvette in GTD Pro, and then in GTP manufacturers, it's going to be Porsche. Again, I think for the strongest 2 cars I think Porsche's there. What have we seen from Wayne Taylor Racing? The 10 has always significantly outclassed the 40. Other than the 40's win at, what was it, Sebring or Petit Le Mans last year, 2 years ago? The 10 has always been faster. The BMWs, when they've been fast, it's been one car, and the other car has wrecked or there's been a mechanical. So I don't think it's going to be BMW. You have Lamborghini, but Lamborghini is a single car entry. Don't think that's going to do it. You have Proton, single car, don't think it's going to do it. JDC, oh, well, that's actually Proton and JDC. So there's 4 Porsches in GTP. So you have more cars to score points. I just think the math is there. I think that's what happens. And the Meyershank returning, I think they'll be competitive-ish, but again, the Acura was not the car that it was when it was Cadillac and Acura and Daytona Prototypes International. So I don't think Meyershank's got a chance. Lamborghini definitely doesn't. BMW of the bigger OEMs maybe, but I think Cadillac will be the closest. But again, Cadillac is going to be outscored because there's double the amount of cars from Porsche. So that's my manufacturer's championship predictions. Make sure, guys, if you're watching this live or on playback, to share it with friends so that you can get their thoughts on some of these predictions. And I'd love to, in the comments on YouTube or Rumble, let me know what your predictions are, or if you think I've bungled any of these horribly. Moving into class champions, which I may have bungled this thinking that Vaster Zollivan had 2 cars in GTD when I chose the class champions being different from the team champions, at least in GTD. But we'll see. We'll see. So, I think for GTD, the number 83 Iron Dames Porsche is going to win. They are rolling on ahead of steam. Michelle Gatting is now a factory Porsche driver. They're returning to Porsche after a season of trials and tribulations in Lamborghini. I think they're gonna come in with a fury, and I think their success has been long overdue when it comes to consistently winning. They won in World Endurance, but it wasn't but several years ago, and it hasn't materialized into a consistent pattern of winning. But excuse me, that was gross. But they have all the pieces to do it, so I think this year's their year. I think they win the class championship for GTD. GTD Pro, I don't know if I'm being spicy with this one. I think Paul Miller Racing comes back with a vengeance. They, as you'll remember, 2 years ago, they were, they won 5 out of the 7 races or something ridiculous. New IMSA record. They went on a tear and won everything. Last year, obviously, they got hit with some BOP. I think this year, I think they are back up towards the pointy end of the field. I don't think I know it's not going to be the dominance that we saw 2 years ago. But the BMW that they have, granted, Brian Seller's not driving it anymore. But the BMW and the Paul Miller team, I mean, listen, Paul Miller's been competitive all the way back to the R8s in Grand Am, in just GT class. So I think in a strong GTD Pro field, you will have various different winners. But I think on aggregate points, that Paul Miller car is going to take the championship. Moving into LMP2, not to be confused with Paul Miller, I think Pratt and Miller in their debut season in LMP2 are going to win the class championship. I have United Autosports winning the team championship, and I realize I really should have checked myself more on this. Let me see. Okay, so I can say that I'm not crazy because United Autosports has 2 cars in LMP2. So I think, again, odds are 2 cars, more average point scoring, presumably. United Autosports is a meaty LMP2 team. Been doing it for years and years and years and years across the world in different series. I think that's going to be hard to beat on the team side. But I think single car entry, you have Pratt and Miller. Listen, I mean, Pratt and Miller is like one of the sole remaining institutions of global American performance in terms of winning, right? I mean, F1 Americans do trash. F1 American teams do horrible. Cadillac has not been doing well in World Endurance, but you know what? Pratt & Miller is holding the red, white, and blue, the Star-Spangled Banner, and they're running into battle. So I think Pratt & Miller is going to win the LMP2 class championship. Now, this next one pains me, but I think if I'm being honest with myself, this has to be the pick, right? I think for the GTP class champions, a Porsche does not do a repeat. The number 10 Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac is going to be the Grim Reaper when it comes to collecting pennants from the other teams. Wayne Taylor Racing has been down in the doldrums for so long with the Acura. For people who are newer to IMSA competition, who aren't old enough to remember Wayne Taylor Racing and Cadillac, guys, holy crap. we're in so much trouble. They are, I mean, they were in the Daytona prototypes, guys. They were beatable, but essentially unbeatable. I don't see a way past Wayne Taylor Racing winning the GTP championship. I mean, again, if you look at the entry list, Porsche is, I don't want to say they're the favorites, but I think the kind of laissez-faire casual viewer will say, well, Porsche won last year, so Porsche's got to win this year. Am I right, guys? No. You have two Cadillac Wayne Taylor cars. Again, the 40 has always been outshined, but that 10 car is coming with a vengeance. Do I think Aston Martin's going to be super competitive? No. Is it the coolest car on the grid? Absolutely it is. BMW. Again, they've never been on pace, like on outright pace. There's been strategy or mechanical factors that have put them in the lead. Never on pace have they been fastest. The other thing is the Cadillac, like with the Porsche and the BMW, the cars that started, the Porsche, Cadillac, BMW, and Acura, they've had the most years of running. So they're going to have the least reliability issues. Lamborghini, still a newer car. Aston Martin, brand new car. And then the Acura, new team with a new car. Granted, Cadillac and Wayne Taylor is the first time they've been together in the GTP era, but it's not the first time they've worked together. So you know Wayne Taylor's going to have those GM factory race support guys right in their corner, helping them. And you have the number 31 Whelen Cadillac, but Pippo Durrani's not racing for them anymore. So you got to question with Jack Aitken or whoever else they're going to have for the car. How competitive is that going to be? I really think it's going to come down to just Porsche and Wayne Taylor Racing. And then maybe you throw in a JDC Miller or Proton Competition wildcard in there, because I think Julian Andlauer is with one of them, and he's obviously Porsche factory super fast. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I do know, just not for sure. I mean, those are my takes. I don't see a way past the soul crushing panic that I'm going to be in when one of the Porsches is leading the race and you have Jordan Taylor with his Rodney Sandstorm helmet chasing them down in the blue and black number 10 Cadillac. Like, again, guys, not that I'm old, but I am old enough to remember. All right, I'm old enough to remember the Wayne Taylor Cadillacs, and it is not fun. It's not fun unless you're a fan, which is totally cool. Kudos to you. But for those of us Porsche people, oh, it's gonna be sad. Well, speaking of sad, this episode has come to a close, guys. We still have. Don't leave. Don't go anywhere. We still have a NASCAR season preview that I better get my ass on, because that's coming quick. That'll probably be next week. Then we have an IndyCar season preview. And then at long last, we have a MotoGP preview. I got to see which season starts first between IndyCar and MotoGP. But I have a calendar. Oh, I was going to do MotoGP next weekend. Oops. I'm going to have to do NASCAR next weekend. NASCAR will be the next season preview, 2025. There's a lot of teams switching and moving and twisting and turning. There was a Formula E race over the weekend. I think I'm going to do another episode later today that's a brief Formula E recap, talk about the new IndyCar commercial that debuted over the weekend, and that one will probably be a 12 or a 15-minute episode. So if you're one of the 2 people hanging out with me in the live stream here on X, make sure to follow, and then keep those notifications on so that you don't miss when we go live and do that episode later today. I do appreciate every single one of you who watches this live or on playback on YouTube or on Rumble. Really pouring my my energy into this and trying to make this go places. So I appreciate you all coming in, listening to some of my good takes, some of my horrible dog water takes, quite frankly. I'm sure there's plenty of them. But I do appreciate it. Either way, make sure to follow, subscribe, and like the videos, guys. Comment who you think is going to win the various class championships in IMSA and what you think is going to be the best or worst race of the upcoming season. I look forward to talking with you all. I'll see you later today. But this has been episode 20 of the Driver's Debrief. I'll see you next time.